Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Murder at Bedtime with me, your host, Lyndon. If you are a returning listener, thank you so much for sticking with me. And as you already know, I think you are awesome. If you are here for the first time, I really hope I can persuade you to return. I would be well chuffed. This is a 15-minute or so, no frills, no waffle, true crime, bedtime story. The waffle is all at the end. So you can just turn me off when the story ends or listen on for me waffling on a bit. I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who kindly messaged me to ask how I was after coming off my bike in the ice the other day. Well, I'm fine, thank you, apart from a sore bottom and bruised pride. And with that, let's get serious and crack on. Tonight we are going to come more up to date for the year 2003 in a rather disturbing case where there are a lot of things that may make some of you angry or you may agree with the outcome. It would be interesting to hear your opinions on this case. The 28th of January 2003 was just a normal Tuesday afternoon for 48-year-old divorcee Dorothy Rogers. She was busy doing a bit of temporary secretarial work from home, just to make a bit of spare cash. She had been made redundant from her job a couple of years before and had received a substantial redundancy payment, so she was financially sound. She had become friends with a 63-year-old widower called Mick Cowles. His wife had died 2 years before, and Dorothy had become a very sympathetic ear and a shoulder to cry on. They had become very close and they socialised together a lot. Mick spent a lot of time at Dorothy's Stantonbury home near Milton Keynes. And on this particular afternoon, Mick was at Dorothy's home, as was her 19-year-old son Michael, who lived at home with his mum. When there was a knock at the door, Mick, knowing that Dorothy was busy, said he would get it. At the door was a young man that the couple both knew from their local pub, the Pilgrim's Bottle in Great Linford. He was a nice lad, very polite and with a good sense of humour and nice company, but not on this particular day. Something was wrong. Dorothy heard raised voices and went to see what was going on, just in time to see the young man bring out a claw hammer and hit Mick 3 times on the head. Mick collapsed unconscious. Before Dorothy could react, the killer turned and struck her on the head with the hammer too. He then pulled out a 12-inch bladed kitchen knife and in a frenzy stabbed her 31 times. By this time, Dorothy's son Michael had heard the commotion and come to investigate. It must have been horrifying seeing what had happened to his mum and her friend, and seeing a man standing there with a bloodied hammer and knife. He did what anyone would have done, and he ran. He managed to get out into the street, but unfortunately he didn't get far. The young man's bloodlust, still not sated, chased him and caught Michael in an adjacent children's play park where families with children were enjoying a pleasant afternoon on the swings and the slides. He stabbed Michael multiple times and then disemboweled him in front of them. The killer then calmly walked off, got into his car and drove away. When the emergency services arrived at the house, they found that sadly Dorothy had died of her injuries, but Mick was still hanging on to life. He was rushed to Milton Keynes Hospital with terrible injuries, where it was found he had 2 skull fractures and had suffered a brain hemorrhage. Sadly, at the play park, Michael had also died of his injuries. Shocked witnesses told the police that the killer was quite unremarkable looking, but fortunately his car wasn't. It was a bright yellow Fiat Cinquecento, and somebody had managed to jot down the number. The police traced the car to 23-year-old local man Gregory Davis, and they arrested him at an address in Great Linford the next morning. So what do we know about Gregory Davis? He was born in 1979 and lived in Wood Lane, Great Linford, with his father a civil engineer and his mother a care assistant. He attended the Ratcliffe Secondary School, studied art, and caused a bit of a stir when, for one of his projects, he made a wooden plaque with silver shields with his favourite serial killers engraved on them. To be honest, as tasteless as it seems, that is something I might have done at that age. He later attended Northampton College, but when he left there, he didn't take up art, and he became a shelf stacker at his local co-op supermarket, and he gradually progressed to supervisor. He was said to be gentle and sensitive and had a wicked sense of humour. He had plenty of friends and was popular. He reportedly got into a relationship with a married woman, but when this ended badly, he started to drink even more. During the searches by the police, a very expensive leather-bound diary bought for him by his father was found. In this, he had written, "Quit job tomorrow, get Mick killed, get Stuart to withdraw cash every day, when all gone, kill Stuart. Repeat Mick plan ad infinitum," which I had to look up and means again and again in the same way and forever. All over the country and world, in Las Vegas and swanky bars. Anyway, on January the 30th, 2003, Davis appeared at the Magistrates Court, charged with Dorothy and Michael's murder and the attempted murder of Mick. He showed no emotion during the charges and only answered his name, age and address. His application for bail was understandably refused. Davis was to stay in Broadmoor High Security Psychiatric Hospital until the trial in December 2003. During the time between the attacks and the trial, Mick Cowles spent a considerable time in hospital. When he came out, he wasn't the same man. He was quiet and reserved. He drank very heavily to ease the pain of losing his great friend Dorothy and her son Michael. And finally, after a heavy night of drinking, which was said to be about 20 pints of beer, Mick fell down a staircase. He was rushed to hospital, but sadly, after complications set in, Mick passed away on October the 11th, 2003, at the John Ratcliffe Hospital, Oxford. It was found by a Home Office pathologist that no link could be found to Mick's death and the attack on him by Gregory Davis. In December 2003, Davis appeared at Luton Crown Court. The court heard that while staying at Broadmoor, he had been examined by 5 psychiatrists. They all came to the same conclusion, that during the time of the attacks, Davis had social anxiety and severe paranoid psychosis, which mixed with alcohol had caused his change in character. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole case, but the Crown's case was that Davis was a would-be serial killer who coldly and calculatedly planned the murders and was a very big risk to the public. The defence, on the other hand, argued that Gregory was a gentle and sensitive young man who would never have committed this crime in his right mind, and was in fact a very sick young man at the time of the attacks. Gregory Davis admitted to the manslaughter of Dorothy and Michael and to grievous bodily harm to Mick on the grounds of diminished responsibility. At sentencing, Judge Justice Richard Aikins told Davis, "You are an extremely grave and immediate danger to the public. This grave and immediate danger could continue for a length of time, and I cannot say when the danger might end." He was sentenced to be held at Broadmoor indefinitely, but by 2009 he had managed to acquire legal aid and got himself a top human rights lawyer who had him transferred to low category Littlemore Hospital, where it caused a bit of a stir when he was recognised and photographed strolling around Oxford city centre doing his shopping. As you can imagine, this did not go down well with the families of the victims. A rally was held at Milton Keynes shopping centre to try and get Gregory banned from returning there, and even the local Member of Parliament got involved in wanting him kept away. Anyway, in 2011, Gregory was released, deemed cured and no threat to the public. He had served only 8 years for the murders of Dorothy and Michael. He came to the forefront of the news again in 2014 when the newspapers were informed that he was making YouTube videos where he was showing off his expensive wristwatch collection and drinking expensive whiskey, while talking about a friend called Archie who had just come back from a trip to Fiji. One of the watches he shows off is reportedly worth £25,000. The videos were taken down. No videos have surfaced since, but the originals are still there, put on by somebody else. And if you want to see Gregory, you can see him. I watched these videos while I was researching this case. So Gregory Davis is living somewhere in the UK as normally as possible. Anyway, what do you think? Did he do his time? Or did he beat the system, a clever and cunning but dangerous man? Let me know. But please, in all this, let's not forget the real innocent victims. Dorothy, her son Michael, and Mick, who, whatever is said, would probably all be here today if they hadn't met Gregory Davis. So now, it's time to switch me off and go to sleep. But if you're still awake, let's continue with a little bit of waffle. There's not much tonight, just to say if you enjoyed this story enough to want to listen to more, please push the subscribe button. It really does help, and I would appreciate it so much. If you're on YouTube, please listen to Murder in the Midwest presented by the lovely Brooke, The Right Shoe by the amazing Debbie Q, and Stolen from Me presented by my good friend Lindsay. Anyone who listens to the podcast, can you please check out Debbie and my collaboration on the Springfield 3 on her podcast, The Right Shoe, on all podcast platforms? And just a short shout out to the handful of friends on my Facebook page who watch it there, where it all started and gave me the support to try podcasting. You're awesome. Anyway, it's time for bed. Sleep well and watch out for those frogs in boxes. Stay safe. Night night. See you all next time, hopefully. Good night.